We're going to call this meeting to order. My name is Steve Frias. I'm the president / chairman of the Cranston Planning Commission. I have in front of me a quorum, so we will begin. First order of business is approval of the minutes of July 7th, 2026. Are there any edits to these minutes? Okay, seeing none, a motion to approve would be in order. Motion to approve made by Commissioner Barberi, seconded by Commissioner Lampier. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Next matter on the docket is 30 Ponham Street. It's my understanding that that matter has been requested for a continuance due to a problem with a notice issue, I believe. Is that correct, Mr. Assistant Director? Or Ms. Valcourt?
That is correct. The abutter notices never went out.
Okay, well, we're going to continue that to our next scheduled meeting is September 1st, 2026. So a motion, I would assume a motion to he's going to have to comply with the notice requirements. So we will continue this to September 1st, 2026. Is there a motion to continue to September 21st? Excuse me, September 1st. Go ahead, Commissioner Lampier.
Just a question. That's a preliminary. Oh, that's an administrative subdivision. I withdraw my question.
No problem. Any other questions before we motion to continue this? Okay. Is there a motion to continue this matter till September 1st? Made by Commissioner Mancini, seconded by Commissioner Lampier. Any discussion? All those in favor of continuing signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Next on the docket is the 3040 Cindy Lane project. Is the applicant here and wishes to be heard on this matter? Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Sanford J. Resnick. I'm the attorney for the applicant. This matter is in regards to lots 125 and 127 on plat 38, which is two lots, and the simple request is to create a third lot out of the two. The history of this is that the Silvestri family purchased lots, or 3 lots. They were on a recorded subdivision in Ridgewood in 1996. Boil lots 126, 127, and 128. In the next year, or maybe 2 or 3 years later, 1999, in the name of his company, he bought the 4th lot. So at that time, he owned 126, 127, 128, and 131. And then over the next few years, there were administrative subdivisions. 3 of them that were done administratively. The first one was administrative subdivision in 1997, which merged recorded lots numbered 133 and 134. They were lots 127 and 120 in the assessors. There was a second one in the year 2000. Those were the merger of lots 132 and 133. And then a third administrative subdivision. And at that time, there was 2 lots. And the third one was actually to readjust the lot lines. And there were 2 lots. At that time, they were called lots A and B. And they just changed the configuration of the lots. And now those 2 lots were requesting those 2 lots to be 3 lots. All the lots at all times have met all the requirements of the zoning ordinance. They're all buildable. There's essentially the same lots now. Instead of having 4, we're having 3. We thought that we could do this administratively, and the staff, I and Joe, Sally, who was the engineer, we disagreed with them, but it's best that we just come here and resolve this whole issue. So I'm going to have Joe come in, and he'll get as deep as this as you want. We have a lot of technical things, but it's really a simple matter of taking these two large lots and making them to three large lots. Joe?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just for the record, my name's Joe Casali. I'm a registered professional engineer with offices at 300 Post Road in Warwick. If I may, Mr. Chairman, I have a quick PowerPoint presentation to walk through this. I just need, if staff would just pop that up. Thank you. So as Sandy said, 30 and 40 Cindy Lane, specifically assessors plat 28 lots 125 and 127. I believe you all know where Cindy Lane is, but off of Situate Ave, Pippin Orchard Road, and then Beechwood Drive, Valerie Court, and that's the dead end known as Cindy Lane. So the applicant owns both of these lots. Lot 127 is a big piece. It's about 6 acres, and it frames a beautiful single-family home, as does Lot 125, just shy of 3 acres, also framing a single-family home. Respectively 40 and 30 Cindy Lane. And what the applicant would like to do, being in the R40 zone, he'd like to extinguish that middle property line to create 3 lots. We did have the wetlands delineated. We do have an intermittent stream that eventually runs its way to Furnace Brook. You can see the edge of the freshwater wetlands come very close to the existing homes. And when you look at the new 75-foot DEM buffer zone with the 100-foot jurisdictional area, there's no doubt anything we do on this property will require a permit from the Division of Freshwater Wetlands. But why we're here tonight, Mr. Chairman, is for the subdivision to create the 3rd lot out of these 2, which would be to abandon and extinguish that interior property line to create that new parcel A. Realizing that all of these lots meet every metric of the R40 subdivision in terms of area, lot size, frontage. But why we're here tonight would be for a waiver on the buildable lot area. You can see as we subdivide this lot, what would be left for that parcel A is quite large. It's going to allow us to propose a sizable single-family home with a normal driveway, pool, shed, and even preserve the easement that exists along lot 127 and parcel A. There's a drainage easement for the benefit of the city of Cranston. The lot will be serviced by well. We do have prior test pit locations to have a typical septic system in the area. Again, and preserving, that's a 20 by 150 drainage easement. All of the runoff from Cindy Lane actually proceeds northerly past the property, which fills and makes, correlates to that wetland. In terms of permitting requirement, again, tonight, this is our preliminary plan for a 3-lot minor subdivision. One of the waivers we're requesting, Mr. Chairman, because we're at preliminary, is we didn't want to get into all of the engineering and have a denial. So we're respectfully requesting that the soil erosion and sediment control plan, the drainage, the landscaping will all be done at the final stage of review. And then we have to specifically request the less than required area suitable for development, meaning that that lot 125, even though it's 102,000 square feet, which is 2.5 acres in an R40 zone, because it has 70,000 square feet of area unsuitable for development, leaves us less than the 80,000 square feet. So requiring a waiver on buildable lot area. And same with parcel A, again, 103,000 square feet, 2.5 acres in an R80 zone. Less the area unsuitable for the development leaves us less than that 80,000 square feet, also respectfully requesting a waiver for the creation of those lots. We still have a way to go should you grant approval. We still have to get the septic system approved, freshwater wetlands, and ultimately, Mr. Chairman, file a final plan with the administrative officer. Be happy to answer questions of you or members of the board.
Any questions for Mr. Casali? Commissioner Lampier?
Thank you, Mr. Casali. Question I have for you is on your waiver and the waiver that you're requesting with regard to erosion control, stormwater management, all of that being put off until final plan. And am I correct that what that would mean is that this commission would not have the opportunity to review and vote on whether or not that's acceptable, because at final plan, only the administrative officer has the authority to do that, correct?
That's true. That's absolutely correct. Realizing this is only a single family home, it's nothing of great extent. And the applicant does stipulate to a freshwater wetlands permit, which will also review all of those relevant items in terms of drainage and stormwater. Again, the basis of that request, we did not want to put more monies into this parcel without having some type of confirmation from the city that that the lot would be allowed and created.
Commissioner Director Carrero.
Mr. Casali, I'm looking at the waiver requests again for the area suitable for development. Have you looked at some of the other parcels, and are there other parcels in that area that are going to be equal to or less than size rise relative to?
We
The-
haven't done an analysis of the other parcels on Cindy Lane. They all predominantly exist. You can see that wetland complex and what's around Cindy Lane from 30 Cindy Lane, 40 Cindy Lane. But no, we haven't done a complete analysis of the buildable lot area of any and all structures.
So again, would that end up being out of character with the area if that area that they're going to be able to develop is going to be small relative to the parcels
I don't think
adjacent to
it's-
it?
No, Frank, I don't think it's going to be out of character at all. I think it'll be in natural character. Again, you're in an R40 zone. These are 40,000 square foot lots. You're going to have 2.5 times the lot
R80
area.
or R40?
Uh,
R80.
Excuse me, R80, you're gonna have, you know, a much larger 102,000 square feet. And you're gonna have that house with well and septic, just like the other homes, up on the front of the roadway, just like the other homes, because of the wetlands that exist in the back. So no, I would argue the opposite. It's gonna absolutely be in character with the rest of the neighborhood.
And again, my only other concern is having some knowledge of what's going on up there with the building. You're looking to add another well. I know that there's been a lot of issues with the people up there relative to wells going dry, people having to do multiple wells, especially the Pippin Orchard late night drive area, because there's so many wells going to ground. Do we have any guarantees that they're going to be able to get a well in there to be able to service that home with reasonable water pressure?
No, but I mean, I don't know what the other wells in the area are. I don't know if those are dug wells or drilled wells. I don't know if they're drilled down deep enough into an aquifer like they should be. You know that the Department of Health and DEM is not going to allow a single family home without at least a half gallon or a gallon a minute. That can be handled with tankage, but I don't have any reason to think that we're not going to be able to get a well suitable for just domestic water for a single family home.
And the bedroom size on that home?
Not sure, 3 or 4. Typical, you know, you're talking if it's a 4-bedroom, single family home in terms of septic, you know, you're at 460 gallons a day. Which is completely, as you know, Frank, overstated and conservative. So you're talking wells are gonna provide half of that, maybe 200 gallons a day. Even at a half gallon a minute, like I live on my lot in Situate, you can deal with tankage. You just fill up larger tanks to control.
Right, so they
Right.
just have to have other concessions made.
That's right. And if people want bladder tanks and small pumps in their house, that's the way we'll control pressure. Pressure and volume is not going to be handled respectfully with the yield of the well.
Again, I just want to try to protect the future owner of this house, to say we don't want to go down the road to find out that they don't have sufficient water. Because I know there have been some developments that have been going in, and people have been misled with the amount of water that's going into the properties through these wells that are being drilled. And the next thing you know, the property owner is stuck with a huge bill trying to do something to make these homes habitable.
Yeah, I mean, that's unfortunate. I know that I live in an area where my well had to be drilled extra deep, 500 feet. We did that for about $12,000 all installed with the well and all the appurtenances. So I'm sorry to people in the city having those problems, but you know, it shouldn't be that expensive of a fix. It should be relatively easy.
Any other questions for Mr. Casali? Okay, I just have a few questions for you, Mr. Casali. Right now, it's 2 lots. These 2 lots, are they both owned by the applicant?
They are. Mr. Silvestri lives in 40, the daughter lives in 30, which is really the basis of this design. It's more estate planning than it is a subdivision. It's Anthony's desire to build that house next to his daughter and then sell the larger house.
Okay. That red line, I believe
Yes.
is the buffer line, right?
Right.
Okay. When I saw the thing you put up of where you build the house, it looks like you're coming up, the structure is like right on the edge of that.
No, so
It's-
I'm sorry, if I can show that closer.
Yeah,
That red line is the buffer.
okay. What's the-
You also have a 20-foot primary setback from the buffer.
Okay,
That's what I'm right up against.
okay,
We're doing our best to stay out of that 100-foot jurisdictional line, but that's not going to be possible. So we are going to go to DEM, but we're not going to build, obviously, within the wetlands. We're not going to build within the buffer, and we're not going to ask for relief from the 20-foot primary setback. There's also a 5-foot secondary setback, which I show just because the pool shed, which will also be out of that. The driveway will be out of it, and we'll be able to sneak in the pool before the 75-foot buffer. But, you know, that's allowed to be in that orange line, which is the 20-foot setback. So yes, a lot going on here with the DEM stuff under the new regulations.
and this, you said 100-foot, I can't remember the phrase you used, you're
It's a
within the,
jurisdictional, so that's the blue line.
okay,
So 100 feet off this particular wetland because of its size and where we are in the city. If I'm within that 100 feet, which I will be for the pool and for some of the clearing, I need to file a freshwater wetlands permit for this application, which we stipulate to do.
and this would be, of course, subject to DEM final review and approval.
That's right.
Right,
And,
okay, all right.
and the city engineer, but as Ms. Lampier said, at not till the last stage, we'll be able to review this. But all of the hard engineering and all of the review will come with the Division of Freshwater Wetlands.
A couple other questions, not related to this parcel, but the other two is like the red line, there are structures in the red lines, above the red lines in the neighboring parcels. Are
Yeah.
these grandfathered in?
Pre-existing non-conforming, yes, they are. So,
Okay.
you know, the old buffers from a wetland were 50 feet.
Okay,
And if you remember, streams less than 100 feet were, less than 10 feet were 100 feet, greater than 10 feet were 200. DEM promulgated new freshwater wetland regulations and increased this buffer to 75 feet, bless you, and increased the jurisdictional area to 100. So that's why you see the non-conforming conditions. House 30 would have to be pushed up today. House 40 would need to be pushed up today. So we will abide by the new code, obviously, for our new house. But that's also why you see those pre-existing non-conforming conditions.
and by changing the lot lines for these lots, you're not all of a sudden triggering some problem like that you lose your grandfather status on the other two neighboring lots, right?
No, there is no grandfather status. If we were to add on to house 30 behind it, behind that red line, we would
Yeah.
need to seek relief from DEM.
Okay,
No, there's nothing we would be losing in terms of zoning or DEM if this was added.
all right, now I'm gonna ask you a question. I think I know what the answer is, but I still have to ask you because I'm not an engineer, so I have to ask you this, which is, we have zoning of this size in this area because there is no city water, no city sewer, to make sure you have adequate land to be able to have a sewer system and a water. So that's why we have buildable lot. That's why the land matters. So I want to understand, you believe that it's engineeringly feasible in this area to drill for a well and a septic system on less than 40,000 square feet of acreage?
Yeah, and I think that's our fundamental disagreement. I believe that, not to practice law, because I'm not an attorney.
And I'm
but
not an
you
engineer,
are.
so I'm asking you, so.
I believe the state enabling legislation gave you, the city of Cranston, to make lot sizes any size that you want.
Right,
You could have made them R400. You didn't. You made them R8.
yeah,
And we're here with a lot that's bigger than R80, and that's our fundamental disagreement.
right.
Do I agree that on this specific lot, on these site constraints, that we certainly can put a well and a septic in? Absolutely, and we will stipulate to that. Obviously, if I can't get a potable well in and a septic system in, we're not going to be able to build this lot. But based on my, experience and education, yes, I believe that this is very vanilla, very easily done.
Okay.
But that's the fundamental
No.
disagreement is the lot area size, because you're looking at this as a 37,000 square foot lot. And I don't see that. I see lot area as 103 square thousand. And why I say that is
Yep.
I can drill a well in a well.
You can, excuse me?
We've drilled wells in wetlands.
Okay.
That's not prohibited. So while I can't build a building there, there are other things that we can do there. But to just answer your question directly and not get into the weeds, yes, as an engineer, as a registered professional engineer under oath, I do believe that this is easily achievable
Okay.
from a sewer and water
Yeah.
setback.
Yeah, and I don't mean, by my question, I was not trying to be argumentative with you,
No,
by
I
the way. When
understand.
I want to be argumentative, people kind of know when I'm asking questions.
I've been here many
I,
times.
because the philosophy behind underlying the 880 concept, this is going back to stuff I read in the 60s and 70s, was that you wanted to have enough space
Yes.
to have a well and a sewer.
Yes.
So when you go, like you're saying, like that's why we kind of focus on buildable, because if it's not buildable, we're not sure you can actually put a sewer system out there. You can't really maybe put that's what the concept is. So that's why I asked you from your expertise, if I'm going to grant a waiver, I'm going it based on you believe you can put feasibly in that area a well and a sewer, right? Now, if something happens, let me follow up on what Director Carrero said. If for some reason, like, how do we know for sure that who looks to make sure that a well and a sewer is actually feasible there? Like, does somebody check before you sell the property? So you have to get someone to look at it?
Yeah, we will file a OWTS application with DEM.
Yep.
Because this isn't a public well and it's a private well, we
Okay.
will not need a supplemental permit from the Department of Health. We will get our septic system permit. That well needs to be 75 feet away from most components, 100 feet away from leaching components. So there's a wide area that a well driller can drill a well and understand what type of yield they're going to get. Right, so a dug well is back old technology when we used to just dig a hole, but those wells were subject to surface pollutants. And now we drill wells as deep as we can, 2, 3, 4, 500 feet, so we can get below a limiting layer so that you have clean water. And so while we can't see the underground aquifers, we'll use an experienced well driller that has carnal knowledge in this area, so that we can
Has what
find
kind of knowledge?
some type of carnal or understanding knowledge of this
Okay.
area, some local knowledge of
Okay.
this area that, like a John Lemmy, who is a third generation well driller,
Yeah,
who will understand better than you and I when they're getting pressures from well. Now you have 2 wells next door that are both drilled and are providing potable water to those dwellings.
right.
You could easily put larger tanks in the big, into any one of the proposed home and use one well to feed that. We do that all the time. But I believe for land use planning, we will have a well here on that. And if we can't get that, then this lot becomes unbuildable.
And so just to make my question specific and your answer specific, for you, you're going to need some government agency is going to have to approve and to be sure that you have a viable well and a viable sewer thing before you can go forward. Some government agency of some
Yeah.
type, right?
We will need 2 permits from DEM to go forward.
Okay.
Septic system permit and a freshwater wetlands permit.
What was the thing, the first one?
A septic, an OWTS
Okay.
permit.
Okay. All right.
Which will show the well and which will be approved at that point, even though the yield won't be done or approved. And then you'll need a wetlands permit ultimately to build the pool and grade and so forth and so on within that jurisdiction.
What kind of test, last thing, and I'm sorry to talk about this a lot, it's just an unusual type thing that I deal with here. How do you figure out that there's enough water in that place enough that you can actually have a viable well there? What was the testing you do?
So you would drill that well. You would take water out of the well, and then you time the recovery of the well as to how many gallons per minute it proves. So for instance, if you were to leave your faucet on, God forbid, go away on vacation and your well runs dry and you're completely empty. When you shut that faucet off, your well will start recovering. We're able to measure in the wellhead the amount of recovery and how fast it's taking, and with the calculations come out to a gallon per minute. Half a gallon a minute is okay. 5 gallons a minute is beyond what would be needed. 1-2 gallons a minute is suffice for a single family home.
And Director Carrero made this question about there's an issue with wells in the area. If you build a well there, is it possible that it could have a negative impact on the other people with their wells in that area? Like you're all drawing from the same water source?
Theoretically, if they're all drawing from the same water source in the low water season like we are now in August with a drought as though we've had before the rain we received a couple days ago, that's a potential problem as people are drinking from that same. And so we have to ensure that we'll drill deeper, or the other solution is if recovery is not fast enough, you have the well constantly fill a larger tank, like rather than a 200-gallon water tank, you'd have a 500-gallon water tank.
And if you were to drill too much from the water, let's say, it would also affect the 2 neighboring properties here as well, right? The applicant's other properties, right?
No, that's suggesting that
If there was a
that
problem.
well is filling your bladder tanks all at the same time. Not
Right.
that we're all using our water, because when we all
Yeah.
turn our faucets and shower on,
Right.
we're just drawing down from our own tank. Our well doesn't go on until our tank reaches 0. So that's really getting into the high improbability that everyone's
Yeah.
well is working at the same time. It's the inverse of a low pressure force main or a septic system. It's not a socially dosed item. It's a time dosed item that, it's filling up that tank, not when you're probably using the water.
Okay, that's the questions I had. There anyone else who has follow-up questions for Mr. Casali? Commissioner Lanfear?
Thank you. With respect to the other 2 developed lots, do any of the well components or components of the septic systems come onto the newly created lot area?
No, and that's one thing we need to prove to DEM that, and we'll be able to do that, is to show all of the wells, all of the septic systems, even for the lots across the way, and make sure we're not putting a well in someone else's septic radius, or we're not putting a septic in someone else's well radius.
And when the 2 developed lots were created, I don't recall if DEM requires with, they used to be called ISDS,
Yeah.
now they're called OUTS.
Yes.
But when DEM had you file an application for that, did they require that you identify an alternative place for the system should it fail?
Yes, that's an old regulation. They used to require if you were on a well and not water, you had to show an alternate septic field area. That no longer, DEM, before they promulgated new freshwater wetland regs years back, they promulgated new septic regs. They changed ISDS to OWTS. That particular portion of the reg no longer exists.
When those 2 lots were developed, was that under the old regulations that
Oh,
required that
it could
siting?
have been, and if those alternate areas are there on that permit, we will have to show that on the new septic application for the single-family dwelling, yes.
So what I'm coming to is the newly created lot, was any of that identified as an alternative place for the septic system for either of those lots?
No, normally the alternates of the septic system is right next to it. Sure.
Any other questions for Mr. Casali? Okay. That's all we have for you right now, Mr. Casali. Does the applicant wish to have anyone else come forward? That's it? Okay. Let's see. At this stage, we'll go to staff and then we'll take public comment. Okay? So staff can make its presentation.
This application at 30 and 40 Cindy Lane is in the A80 zone where 80,000 square feet is required for a single family dwelling. And the proposal is to reconfigure 2 existing lots into 3, where the waiver is being requested for land unsuitable for development. This is showing the A80 zone and the future land use of less than 1 unit per acre. This is the location in the Western Cranston neighborhood. 3D aerial view and another 3D aerial view. This is the topography. So I just was pointing out that the grade kind of slopes up as it makes its way to Cindy Lane. The 200-foot radius map, which includes the notified properties and a cropped, zoomed in version of the survey. Also, same thing for the existing conditions and the proposed conditions plan. Planning analysis starts with the consistency with the initial plat map, which was called Ridgewood Section 8. As the applicant mentioned, this plat was recorded in 1990. The subject lots relevant to this application were record lots 131 through 134. So there's 4 lots there. Each intended to serve the purpose of 1 single family dwelling and all conforming with the A80 zoning requirements. So with there being 4 platted lots that we're talking about here, that was 4 single families on a total of 394,000 square feet. And now this current proposal is requesting 3 single families on that same amount of land. You'll see like a 2 square feet difference from 1990 to today, but maybe it just got a little more accurate. The current proposal is generally consistent with the original plat. And you're gonna see that, you're gonna see that the current proposal aligns with the original lot 132. So I just thought that was interesting to bring up, and I'm just gonna run through it pretty fast. This is the 1990 plat. These are the 4 lots. And then this is the latest subdivision. So we had the applicant kind of run through a few subdivisions that have taken place since the original 1990. This is the latest one in 2016, which brings us to our current configuration. This is the proposed configuration. And this is the original. There were 4 lots. Now they want 3. So here are the 4 original lots on the original plat. And now they want to kind of reinstate lot 132 as parcel A. The consistency with the zoning ordinance and subdivision and land development regulations is that it is generally consistent. The A80 zone shows consistency with both use and dimension. And this section of Cranston's subdivision and land development regulations does state the land unsuitable or suitable for development. So they do need a waiver from that. Despite having plenty of lot area, there is a large presence of wetlands, which creates a high amount of unsuitable land. Continuing with the zoning ordinance and subdivision and land development regulations, staff has found also generally consistent. That's the same as the last slide. And I continue to move through the waivers that were requested by the applicant. This is basically straight from the memo. I put in green just to kind of highlight which waivers I have included in my recommendation. So there were more waivers requested than I ended up recommending at the end. So I'll say the land unsuitable for development is a waiver that is included in the staff's recommendation. It is found that it is good planning practice to minimize impacts to infrastructure. No new infrastructure, city infrastructure would be required. It's on an existing road. We're not messing with conservation land. And the applicant has sufficient area as shown on the proposed site plan to have adequate space for the the septic system and the well. This waiver is the sole requirement preventing this proposed subdivision from proceeding. So I'll touch back on that in a second, but the second waiver is a checklist item, which is the landscape plan. This is not included in staff's recommendation because the City Plan Commission must request the submission of this item. So unless requested by the commission, it's not required. So no need for a waiver unless you request it. The third checklist item is, the third waiver is checklist item D20, which is the stormwater management plan. This one is also not included in staff's recommendation because truly the stormwater management plan is best best completed upon the submission of final construction drawings. So you can approve this subdivision without a final building plan. So you could make them go through the hoops of designing their stormwater, but when they go for building permit and the driveway is slightly a different size or the roof is slightly a different size, they have to redo all those calculations. So I did note that it is not included in the recommendation. However, the applicant has already provided 2 designated areas for stormwater management. So truly what you're not waiving here is the true calculations and all the engineering for these stormwater management techniques, because you do have the proposed locations for them, just not all of the calculations. The fourth waiver is checklist item D19, which is the soil erosion and sediment control plan. Staff did include this one in the recommendation because construction activity isn't anticipated to occur within 100 feet of a wetland, so it did seem applicable. And the final waiver is checklist item D18. This is the limits of disturbance and work plan. This waiver is also included in staff's recommendation as the limits of disturbance should be accurately measurable at this time. Here are some statistics, just kind of number crunching the density of the surrounding area. I just put 2 arrows. I know it's like kind of just a ton of information on the screen. I feel like if you were to look at 2 numbers on the screen that kind of made most sense, it would be what the proposed parcel density is, and then what the existing 200-foot radius is, which you can see that they're closely aligned. But from top to bottom, I just have the parcels themselves. So the proposal, the subject parcels, how the density changes for those, how the density then changes for the 200-foot radius, and how the density changes for the neighborhood zone. So that being all A80 zones in the Western Cranston neighborhood. And then within this 200-foot radius, how many lots are smaller or equal or larger than what is being proposed. I did note on the bottom of the screen the exact lot sizes of the proposed lots. And so they're like 102,000, 189,000, and 103. There were generally just no lots that were around like 100 square feet. So I said none were actually equal to it. Mostly just 96,000 and under, or anything above 105 I put as larger than the lots. For consistency, again, with the surrounding area, staff finds the application consistent. The proposed lots are comparable in size and shape to the surrounding residential lots. As you'll see with its consistency with like the original plat, it's very consistent with that. And I did say, staff also mentions that there are irregular lot configurations in the area. And similarly, it's pretty easy to say, just based on the location of the wetland, that other lots adjacent to these are also without 80,000 square feet of suitable land area. Although the applicant did mention they didn't survey the surrounding lots, which makes sense, but I would say that, they're similarly affected. Consistency with the comprehensive plan would be, the staff finds it consistent. I pointed out the future land use designation as less than 1 unit per acre. All of the existing densities were conforming with that. and all of the proposed densities were conforming with that future land use. Granting the waiver mentioned above, or granting the waivers that staff recommends, would permit one additional conforming use of the property, which is consistent with goals H1, natural resources 2, policy P1, and policy H3. All in all, staff finds this proposal generally consistent with the comp plan, zoning ordinance, and findings and standards in Rhode Island general law and the subdivision and land development regulations, and therefore recommends that the City Plan Commission adopt the findings and standards documented above and approve the preliminary plan of this subdivision. The preliminary plan, again, is to subdivide 2 existing lots, parcels parcel 28-125 and 28-127. That's the plat and lot number, to create one additional lot, which is parcel A, with the waivers requested from the 8,000 square feet of land suitable for development. Let me keep going, because I feel like this doesn't touch on all the waivers that are truly within this recommended recommendation here. I have here recommended waivers. Now, this is what staff has recommended: that parcel A be granted the waiver from the land unsuitable for land suitable for development. Lot 125 also needs to be granted a waiver for the land suitable for development. And then staff also recommends that the Plan Commission defer the submission of, as requested by the applicant, of the limits of disturbance and the soil erosion sedimentation control plan from preliminary to final. So I'm not saying that they shouldn't be submitted, they should just be deferred to final plan stage. And then we have some conditions of the approval, which means that, final plan will not be complete until these items are submitted, which is the freshwater wetlands permit, the septic permit, and the payment of capital facility fees. So I will definitely can go back to these 2 slides as you're making your motions, but since this one is a lot, I have some draft motions here just to help out. So the first one being to accept staff's recommendation. So that would be a motion to adopt the findings and standards, as well as to accept the waivers and conditions that staff has recommended. The continuance of the application would be due to the denial of waiver number 3, because waiver number 3 is to defer some things to final plan. If you don't want to defer them to final plan, then you will be denying that waiver, and you'll have to continue the application so that they can bring you the items. And then the suggestion, well, the draft motion to reject staff is pretty clear. If I may just go back quickly, I put small note at the bottom that preliminary plan cannot be approved without the granting of waivers 1 and 2. If you don't grant the waivers for land suitable for development, there's no subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Valcourt. Are there any questions for the staff? Okay, just so I understand is that under certain waivers, we're requesting that they be deferred until final stage, and others I think we're not. Yeah, okay, all right. All right, any questions? Okay, does the applicant have anything they want to say in response to the staff recommendation? Okay, all right, I'll open up the floor for public here on 30 and 40 Cindy Lane. Anyone want to talk to the commission about this? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Lima, is there anyone online that would like to speak about Cindy Lane?
There is no public comment online.
Okay, no public comment. We will go to back here. Any final questions or comments for either the staff, comments or questions for the staff or the applicant? Okay, all right, I don't see any. We can do a discussion or we have motion. I'll just tell unless I hear something different from our discussion. I'm inclined to grant this motion as recommended by the staff, on specifically on the waiver of these buildable lot issue. Basically, when you look at the statute, it talks about the peculiar conditions, impracticalness, good planning. This is a pretty unique situation about water and sewer in this area. You know, it's not, I find it to be a peculiar situation. It'd be impractical and a hardship. So I could, I will go along with it. It's a pretty, like, I don't see myself, to be honest, to the applicant, if this is like the beginning of a trend of coming in here and trying to waive the buildable lot sizes, I'm probably not going to be inclined to do it all over the place, but I've seen this in
Yeah,
situation.
just one point of clarification.
Yeah.
So in the Grand Bill 8004, they had eliminated buildable lot and then they put it back in
Okay,
and they changed the definition of buildable lot from a zoning, considered practical by the planning board to, let me read this, a lot meeting the requirements of local zoning ordinance or having obtained relief thereon, as well as the requirements of applicable federal, state, and local regulations. I think this meets it, but they took away the language of considered practical by the planning board, considering physical constraints of development.
so they changed the standard that's in the memo.
Well, Sandy, I don't know if you want to, the memo, the application was submitted prior to the change of the law, which I think we would have to go under.
You have, Mr.
And this
Sir,
was-
you have to speak on the microphone so that we get
sorry,
this on the
Sam.
record.
And this was before then, right, Sandy? I just want to.
I'm not really sure. When was this application filed? I think.
It says
think
July
Technical
10th.
amendment, which is what you're referring to. I think it was signed like on June 26th. So the amendment was, I believe, if you look at I believe the governor's signature was the 26th of June. Now, why I remember that date, I don't know. I don't have that technical amendment with me, but I know it was the last session, like the last day.
Yeah, I'm just looking, so I don't know. I don't know when it was, I don't know when it was signed.
Okay, so what is the standard about this now?
Well,
So just slowly
I'm
say it
sorry.
to me so I can follow it.
a lot meeting the requirements under the local zoning ordinance
Uh-huh.
or having obtained relief thereon, which they are, as well as the requirements of applicable federal, state, and local regulations.
That's it? Okay, so it's probably less stringent than the prior standard then.
I think, well, originally Craven got pissed off and he eliminated,
Make sure you get that in the minutes.
he eliminated buildable lot. If you look at 8004, the first version eliminated buildable lot in its entirety,
Yep,
but they put it back in. And I think it's actually better now because rather than considered practical by the planning board, which is amorphous
Yeah.
standard,
Yeah.
it just says applicable federal, state, and local regulations, which I think are definitely is a more applicable standard.
Yep.
You were just saying the old standard
Oh,
when you said good planning practices.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
just want to make sure. I believe this does. I'm not saying you should deny. I'm just
Okay,
saying
right.
the standard changed 4 days before the.
well, I'm just going, let me just say this, so, it's best to avoid confusion. Whether it's that new standard or this standard here on page 8 of the memo, I think you qualify right now. And, okay, so I think this standard here, about granting waivers, says, literal enforcement of the regulations are impracticable will exact an undue hardship because of the peculiar conditions, and/or is in the best interest of good planning, I think you meet the waiver. What I'm saying, in these particular conditions, under this standard or his standard, it would meet it as well. My only point is, these are unusual conditions that I don't expect to repeat itself elsewhere very often. That's all. Okay? That's my take. Anyone else have anything they wanted to say? Commissioner Lanfear?
Just a question. I'm only troubled by the fact that I don't have a problem with the waiver. And I believe it's consistent with the neighborhood. My concern is that as a commission, we are going to approve a preliminary plan that doesn't, in my opinion, have the information that should be before us to approve that, because it vests them with all of those rights. And that would only come in at final plan. Normally, we would have that information before us. So my question to the solicitor is, because this is a minor subdivision, were it not for the waivers, would this have been done completely administratively?
Yes. And
This is a very
me and Mr.
atypical.
Casali and Mr. Resnick Jr. had hour-long conversation on this, but it would be a minor subdivision except for the net usable land
And done by the administrative officer?
and done by the administrative
Okay,
officer,
so-
for which whenever they require the well and the septic and all that
Right.
within the process, it would have been done
That
wholly administratively.
satisfies my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lanfear. Yes, this is a very unique situation. And it's, the other thing I should have said earlier was also based on Mr. Casali's representation, that this is feasible for a well and a sewer in this amount of land that is buildable, and that there will be government regulatory approval requirements associated with the wetlands and the sewer system. So I feel more comfortable that this will not be this will be done properly and not negatively affect other people or the person who actually ends up buying it. Any other comments or questions? Okay. All right, then it's motion time. And anybody want to make a motion? The conditions. Yes, okay, so that's, put that back up. That's choice number one. So we go back. That's what it is, and that's, by number one, you're doing, back to the next page, all this. Okay, sounds good. Commission, made by Commissioner Barberi, seconded by Director Carrero. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Congratulations to the applicant. Coming before the commission is not that bad. It really isn't. I know you hear stuff on the street, but it's not that bad.
They fought us for 6 months, so they didn't have to come here and get approval.
1 hour, that's all it took. Now go to zoning board recommendations. First on the agenda, I think I'm going in order of the agenda. Is that appropriate?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ray. Is the LOC Construction LLC, and this involves 89 Auburn Street and 0 Auburn Street. Is the applicant here and wishes to be heard on this matter? Seeing none, staff, take it away.
All right, so this is an application to leave an existing 2-family dwelling on a 5,000 square foot lot and to construct a new single-family dwelling on a 5,000 square foot lot. And this is in the Auburn neighborhood. This is an aerial view. And there's the site plan. And this is the relief. A lot of it is the existing condition. All right, so staff reviewed this application in consideration with compatibility with the general character of the surrounding neighborhood. And we found that despite the uniformity of the lot sizes in this neighborhood, there is significant diversity in housing types and density. And as shown in the map, there are a lot of two families in Auburn. And just like single families in Auburn, they are also on 5,000 square foot lots. And a lot of the lots, like I said, 5,000 square foot, 50 by 100. So we found that it was consistent in terms of lot size and density. We also found that the B1 zoning district is an appropriate zoning classification for single and two family residential development, and that the proposed project density does not conform to the future land use map. But despite this, the density of the surrounding area exceeds both the flume and the proposed density of the surrounding lots, which suggests that it is also in line with the character of the neighborhood. And the following goals, policies, and action items outlined in the comprehensive plan support the approval of this application. Goal H2, policy H3, policy H6, and action item LU 29. And with that, I'd like to give a positive recommendation for both of these zoning board of review applications.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Is there any questions for Mr. Ray regarding the zoning board recommendation? Commissioner Lampier.
I'm not sure if this was included, but for some reason, I don't think I see it. Can you tell me what the existing density
Yes.
of the, well, not, you gave us the existing density of the area as 17.3 units per acre in the 200-foot area. What would the density of each of the lots in question be?
So the existing density is about 8 units per acre, and the proposed density is 13 units per acre.
Any other questions? Okay, just keep down the screen. All right, if there's no other questions for the staff, we'll go to public comment. Is there anyone here who would like to make public comment on the the 89 Auburn Street LOC construction or the LOC construction 0 Auburn Street recommendation? I see none. Mr. Leamer, is there anyone online that would like to make public comment on this matter?
There is no public comment online.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there any further questions for the staff or any comments the commissioners want to make? Commissioner Lampier.
Mr. Ray, could we go back to that slide? Thank you. At the bottom where you have neighborhood zone density, you have the 200 radius density, which I understand what that is. Neighborhood zone, can you tell me what the definition of neighborhood zone is?
All right, so the entire neighborhood of Auburn, essentially excluding Rolf Square, which is a commercial zone, is zone B1. So that's what that means. It's like the neighborhood is Auburn and the zone is B1. Yep. We also are talking with our GIS person to work on hopefully redoing these numbers, making sure they're entirely accurate. Yeah, so if you look at the policies, action items, it does mention the word neighborhood specifically. So that's why I did that. There's actually official boundaries for neighborhoods in Cranston. Yeah, I've been I've been doing it since I started this job, actually. No, so I believe, there was some community outreach about the neighborhood boundaries. And that was decided years ago.
Yeah, I think in the last comprehensive plan go around, they did try to identify neighborhoods. I don't know if it was specific to plats, like the Auburn plat or Edgewood or things like that, but they did try to identify certain, neighborhood boundaries. Whether it equates to what's up there, I don't know, but I do know that there was discussion regarding kind of the denoting neighborhoods within the city.
If you look on the first page of the staff report, that's the boundaries of the neighborhoods that the staff uses when they say neighborhood. So if you see Auburn is that little thing over there, look awkwardly shaped. That's Auburn. Then you have each of these neighborhoods. So then when they say neighborhood density, they're talking about that. The 200 feet obviously is a more exacting number. It's the
Yeah, I
200
think you
feet.
can take it for what it's worth, you
This is just more information, try to give relevant facts to the commissioners to decide which one they want to pour more weight on. Okay, and of course, we all know what the flum is. So, all right. Anything further? Okay. I'll just make a comment. At this point, unless I hear something different, I'm inclined to agree with the staff because the proposed density would still be below 13.06 would still be below the density of the immediate surrounding neighborhood of within 200 feet. So of 17.3. So for that reason, I don't believe it's negatively impacting the density of the immediate surrounding neighborhood. That's kind of how I look at it. Anything else from anybody else? Okay,
The director has her hand up. She can just let herself in. She's a
Oh.
panelist.
oh, she wants to make a public comment on this?
I just wanted to add that the neighborhoods aren't adopted in any official way. They're just used, as you said, they're a GIS layer and used for planning purposes.
So that was trying to respond to your earlier question, Commissioner. Okay. And whenever the director wants to speak, Commissioner, Mr. Lima, just let her speak, okay?
That she has control. She's a panelist.
Oh, she's a
Anytime.
panelist, so anytime, Director, I know you're there, don't be afraid. Okay. All right, where were we? Anyone want to make a motion? Could be a positive, could be a negative. Go ahead.
I guess we have to do two. Make a motion to approve the recommendation of the staff.
I think that's the preference of the solicitor usually versus a combined,
For the 89
Yeah.
Auburn Street.
yes. That's positive by Director Carrero, second by Commissioner Barberi. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed say nay. All in favor with one in the negative by Commissioner Lampier. Second motion, 0 Auburn. You guys can do it again if you want to.
I make a motion to accept the positive recommendation from the staff for 0 Auburn Street.
Thank you, Director Carrero, seconded by Commissioner Barberi. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed say nay. Nay from Commissioner Lampier, the rest in the affirmative, same vote as last time. Thank you very much. We will now proceed to Eddie Pina at 309 Station Street. Is the applicant here and wishes to be heard on Eddie Pina, 309 Station Street? The applicant is not here. Staff, please make the presentation.
All right, so this is an application to convert an existing single-family dwelling into a two-family dwelling. And it is located right in between the railroad and 95 near Park Avenue. That's an aerial view. View. Plan. Oh, for this property, there are two lots that are considered merged next to each other, each 5,000 square feet. So this property was previously a legal two-family home. This is the narrative that was provided by the applicant. And they also stated that the current layout and utility hookups will remain in place. Just saying it's only gonna be minor changes to the property. So staff reviewed this for compatibility with the general character of the surrounding neighborhood. The area around this house is a historic remnant of the edge of the Auburn neighborhood that was separated by the construction of I-95. And as I show on this zoning plat, this little sliver of land is mostly made up of two-family homes, including the one that is in this application. The applicant is not proposing any changes to the law or really to the structure. And just wanted to say that applying the M2 zoning requirements would be inconsistent with the surrounding neighborhood and the historic use of the lot. In addition, the future land use map acknowledges that this industrial zone should be changed to allow for redevelopment. And obviously this area is suitable for industrial uses, but the existing residential buildings are there and will continue to be there. So like I said, the future land use map designates this property as special redevelopment area. But that means that that is defined as an area where the city has identified a place where the existing zoning is not appropriate or where the city anticipates undertaking redevelopment through mixed plan development. And following goals, policies, and action items outline the comprehensive plan, support the approval of this application, goal H2, policy H3, policy H6, and policy H11. And with that, let's do a positive recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Are there any questions for Mr. Ray regarding this application? Mr. Director Carrero.
Are we just trying to legitimize a two-family home that was a single, or are they taking that structure that was in the first and making a second dwelling unit in the upper level?
No, just simply converting the official use back to two-family. At some point, it was switched back, likely just a change of ownership or something like that.
Can we see the picture of the home again?
That's what it looks like.
Do we have sufficient egress to get in and out of the? I mean, not having a plan of the floor, I don't know what they're proposing.
I think what they're proposing is simply, I think, converting this one family into a two-family. I don't think they're adding a building in this plan, is there?
Yeah, it's literally just changing the usage in terms of zoning, for stands, official designation.
Okay, so I'm assuming then that second floor deck that's shown in the back of the house is going to be the egress and access for that unit. I guess it's going to be on the upper level.
That I'm not sure actually.
If you want, we can wait till the solicitor comes back. You can ask him. Okay.
I just raised, making sure, I mean, that does not look like a lot of living space on the second floor to create a second unit, but I'm assuming then that it always was there?
Yeah, so it was built like that. This house is actually really old. It was built more than 100 years ago, and it was a two-family up until, I believe, several decades ago.
So if I may, if you approve the two-family use, it would allow Stan to approve changes to the structure consistent with it being a two-family use.
Thank you, Director. Any further questions for staff about the one family into a two family on Station Street? Okay, I see you have a question. Go ahead, Commissioner Lampier.
So because this is a use variance, and I apologize, I've asked you this before and you've answered it numerous times. Does the granting of a use variance follow the property, or does it extinguish upon transfer of the property?
It runs with the land.
And the standard that the zoning board considers is denial of all beneficial use, correct?
Correct, because while the single family use is a pre-existing non-conforming use, they're expanding the non-conformity, therefore, obviously, the use variance standard comes in effect.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the staff or the solicitor? Okay, seeing none, we'll do public comment. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak on Station Street? 309 Station Street. Seeing none, Mr. Lima, is there anyone online that wishes to speak to 309 Station Street?
There's no public comment online.
All right, thank you. All right, any further questions for the staff or the solicitor? Okay. All right, anyone want to make a comment before we make motions? Okay. Personally, just, I'm going to be supportive of the positive recommendation. This was a two-family at one point, so going back to a two-family doesn't really bother me. And so I don't see really the harm in going back to what it was. But this is a recommendation to the zoning board, they'll decide. All right, go ahead. Anyone can make a motion, positive or negative. Commissioner Mancini.
Positive recommendation. We'll
Okay,
put forth.
Commissioner Mancini made a positive recommendation. Is there a second to Commissioner Mancini? Seconded by Commissioner Exter. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Nay from Commissioner Lampier. The rest in the affirmative. All right, thank you very much. Next is Yolanda Rosa and Neri Cruz, 547 Park Avenue. Is the applicant here and wishes to be heard on this matter? I do not see them present. Can the staff please proceed?
All right, so this is a somewhat similar application. The proposal is to convert a existing three-family dwelling into a four-family dwelling by adding a unit. So here's the aerial view. It is located close to the intersection between Park Ave and Elmwood Ave. All right, so here's the site plan, and as you can see, the parking is clearly shown. It is conforming, and there is a small addition that is proposed in the back of the house. And the variance is for lot size requirements. So we reviewed this in compatibility with general character of the surrounding neighborhood. Found that this area contains a diversity of lot sizes and density. There is a good amount of 2 to 5 unit houses in this area. In addition, there's some apartment buildings nearby, which does reflect the purpose of the B2 zone. And also, I just wanted to note that this would not make any visible changes to the property that would be seen from the street. So for the comprehensive plan, the B2 district is appropriate for a multifamily development. We found that this does go above the flume density designation, but we also found that many of the other lots in the area also are above that density cap. And in addition, the addition of one unit will negligibly raise the density of the area. The following goals, policies, and action items in the comprehensive plan support the approval of this application. Goal H2, policy H3, and policy H6. Oh, and I just wanted to point out that this is not a use variance because it is going from a 3-family to a 4-family, which are both seen as multifamily according to Cranston laws. And with that, I'd like to give a positive recommendation.
Any questions for Mr. Ray? Go ahead, Commissioner Lanfear.
Thank you. Mr. Ray, you say that it doesn't conform to the future land use map density designation. Did you do a density calculation for this?
Yeah, I
Property.
did. This is all the data that I collected.
Sit up there for a second so I can write it down. Thank you.
Just to make sure I'm reading it correctly, the proposed subject parcels density would be 29.09 units per acre. And the 200 radius density is 13.67. That includes the apartments across the street and anything within 200.
Yeah, so these numbers look dramatic because as you could see in these maps, this is essentially the border with Providence. So the 200-foot radius is really only showing a couple lots, and some of them are large. So the density is high in this area, but it's misleading because this subject or the sample size is small, essentially.
It is, but I will say as someone who is really familiar with that area because I drive by it often, the density calculation is very high because there are a lot of units in a very compact area. My other question for you is the parking. My look at the front of the property is that there is no access. That very narrow alleyway is not negotiable by a vehicle. So can you explain to me where that parking is? And
Yeah,
is
so
it paved and?
there's access through the back on this Hathaway Street, which is technically right on the border with Providence, but it is a street, so it is access.
Have you seen that street?
Mm-hmm.
So when you go down that street, there is just about where you would turn into this proposed parking lot. There's a building that sort of juts out and a generator that's kind of in the
Yeah,
in the
I actually
roadway.
I took a look at that, and it doesn't block the access at all.
Okay. Thank you.
So it would like street, like Hathaway up there, and then would take a right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it also shows that on the plan.
Okay. All right, any further questions for the staff on their report? Okay, seeing none. Any public comment on 547 Park Ave? None here in the room. There's somebody online.
Annette Bourne.
Ms. Bourne, please proceed.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. State your
Okay,
name and
thank
address.
you. Thank you. Annette Bourne, 51 Community Drive, Cranston, Rhode Island. This request, in addition to so many of the others tonight, including the one in Western Cranston, regards a little bit of zoning relief for some additional homes, incrementally developing some homes. I counted up, including the 30 Panem, which got continued, something like 10 additional homes, 5 zoning requests, 2 planning, not include, that's including the one that got continued. And I'm really beseeching the commissioners to allow for these variances. I'm looking forward to the public informational meetings on mixed-use centers and corridors and the comprehensive plan housing element. You've all heard me before. We need more homes in Cranston. We need more homes of different varieties. From me, this is a neighborhood, a low and moderate income neighborhood. It's right steps away from the Elmwood bus corridor. So I hope that you all will see your way to making positive recommendations on these zonings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bourne. Council would like to make public comment.
I see no other public comment.
Questions for the staff? Okay. Seeing none. Comment and motions. Want to make any comments? I'll say that I understand the need for more housing and we are providing it. But this is 29 units of density per acre. This is obviously above the FLUM, obviously above, it's also above the density of the local area, 200 feet. I believe it's above even the neighborhood density. And 29 units per acre. I think that's about as, I can't remember what I did on Legion Bowl, but that's about as, I think that was probably the limit. It's pretty close. But to me, I don't, because of this location and the amount, is already have 3 units there. I'm not going to be supporting this positive. I will not be agreeing with the positive recommendation here. Thank you. Anyone else like any comments before we make motions? This obviously is a motion for a recommendation. The zoning board, as obviously the public knows this, will make the final determination at that time. So, any comments or comments from Commissioner?
Yeah, I have a comment. This is a non-conforming 3-family. Are we making a recommendation to make it a 4-family conforming?
Go ahead, sir.
Well, it's in a B2 zone, so I think a multifamily is allowed in a B2.
Correct.
So it is conforming as a multifamily in a B2 zone. The 3-family is conforming.
The only variance is for the lot size requirement. Yep.
The use, yeah, it's multifamily is allowed in B2. It's just basically the lot size, i.e. density
Yeah,
level.
the last application was unique because of that being an M zone, a manufacturing zone, because it's on the other side of the highway. So that's why that was a use variance. This is just a dimensional variance.
Right.
He wrote non-conforming 3-family.
The non-conforming part of the 3-family is the lot size. So by adding a unit, you are increasing the non-conformity, but the use is conforming.
Okay. All right. Any further questions or comments? Okay, it's motion time. Commissioner Lanfear?
I would move a negative recommendation for the following reasons. The proposal is not consistent with the future land use map. The lot size relief that is requested the lot size is 5,986 square feet, and they are requesting 12,014 square feet of relief from that. And it is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan because it does not preserve and protect the density of the existing neighborhood or the area within 200 feet. And it would increase the density of the area from 21.81 to 29.09. It also would increase the nonconformity that currently exists on the property. And for those reasons, I would recommend a negative recommendation to the zoning board.
Motion made by Commissioner Lampier, seconded by Commissioner Barbary. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of making a negative recommendation signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, and a unanimous negative recommendation vote. Now move to Colbia Enterprises on 250 Plainfield Pike. Is the applicant here and wishes to be heard on Plainfield Pike? I do not see the applicant present. Staff, please make the presentation.
All right, so this is a proposal to add an electronic message center on an existing freestanding sign. This is on Plainfield Pike near 295. This is industrial zone, or actually it is a commercial zone surrounded by an industrial zone. And on right there on the right is the sign in question. And interestingly, I actually gave a recommendation on another zoning application for these signs in this property in the past. And now they're looking for more relief to add an LED element to that. So the relief is that electronic LED message signs of this type are not really mentioned in our zoning ordinance. So therefore they're kind of just prohibited by omission, essentially. And the comprehensive plan is also silent on LED signage. And the applicant provided a narrative which stated that they are updating the existing freestanding sign by replacing a portion of the existing static sign panels with a smaller electronic message center / digital sign. So staff reviewed this in terms of compatibility with the general character sign neighborhood, and I went back to my other memo, and I found that in that memo I had said that the signs were consistent with surrounding signs, especially other gas stations. But in this case, I do not see consistency, and the other signs don't have those elements. In addition to that, digital LED signage can be visually overwhelming and may create a sense of clutter or sensory overload for passerby drivers. The comprehensive plan had the following goals, policies, and action items. Support the denial of this application, specifically goal TC1, policy TC16. And there are no guidelines for signage development which would allow the LED signage to aesthetically fit in with the surrounding existing commercial centers of highway / arterial commercial areas. And that I'd like to give a negative recommendation on this application to the zoning board of review.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Are there any questions for Mr. Ray on his recommendation in the staff report? Just one thing, I'll go ahead, Commissioner.
gonna say-
Freer.
In your review, there are no other message signs, electronic message signs in this area?
I can't guarantee that there are none, but I did a quick search around the area.
Yeah, on Plainfield, I don't think there are.
I thought the automotive place has one.
I think you're right.
The automotive place?
Yeah, that, I forgot the,
I wasn't saying that there aren't any. I was just saying the general character.
Just a question. Are the applicants informed that of this process, of this hearing tonight? Because it seems odd that these guys are not here. Yeah, Did you have conversations with the attorney regarding
Who-
this
who-
recommendation and all? Or?
Who's the attorney on this? Does anyone know, Mr. Ray? Or does the director know? She's online.
It's either Danielle or Joe Barone, I think. Colbia has a couple,
Okay.
but they're usually from like out of Pelican. And that's the only reason I'm asking.
Yeah, the solicitor just had a question. Mr. Ray, if you don't know, that's fine.
I don't know. I don't typically talk with the applicants like that.
Oh, okay, that's fine, just so.
Director, do you have, if you're online and you can, and you're able to respond to the solicitor's question, you can, please do so. If you can't,
Yeah, I don't know who's representing this client. This applicant.
that's right. We talk about them as applicants, not clients. Okay. Thank you for asking that question, Director Carrero. Is there any other questions for Mr. Ray? Seeing none. Public comment. Anybody wishes to make public comment on Plainfield Pike? Mr. Lima, is there anyone online that wants to make public comment on Plainfield Pike?
There's no public comment online.
Okay. All right. Any last minute question, any last questions for the staff? I'll just make this quick comment. I'd like to hear what my colleagues have to say. I really don't have strong feelings about these LED things, so you know, so. But, you know, and I'll say this, I am surprised if Plainfield Pike does not have an LED sign. That is like one very busy area. But anyway. All right, there's a negative recommendation made by the staff. We can make a negative, we can make a positive. Anyone can go ahead and make the motion. Who wants to make, oh, we have double, who wants, you want to let him go first? Oh, would you get,
I'm trying to figure out what it is.
that's
Do
a
we-
negative recommendation. That means no LED sign on Plainfield Pike.
Okay. How do I say that I would agree to a message sign on Plainfield?
That means
Pike?
you
So
want to
wait,
make a
wait,
positive recommendation, right, Solicitor?
Yeah, exactly. You'd make a recommendation, a positive recommendation, and then with the suggestion that, are you going to suggest the normal, the standard criteria for applicant conditions?
Well, I would make a motion for a positive recommendation with the
this-
conditions of the message board that we normally would approve through the planning board in the past, which is, I believe, is no moving messages and no messages changing greater than or less than 30 seconds at a time.
Does that sound correct, Solicitor?
Yes, yeah, and operational during business hours. correct?
Yeah, operational during business hours.
Okay, that was the recommendation made by Director Carrero. Is there a second to his recommendation? Seconded by Commissioner Colasanti. All right, any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor of a positive recommendation signify by saying aye. Okay, this is, I'm gonna have to do hands. And Mac was off? Oh, no. I'm going to repeat what just happened to everybody online who's been wondering what happened. There was a vote.
For the one.
Commissioner Carrero, Commissioner Mancini, Commissioner Colasanti, and myself voted for a positive recommendation. And there was a negative on those who were against this positive recommendation were, if I recall, Commissioner Lampier, Commissioner Barberi, and Commissioner Exter. So the motion passes on 4-3 positive. Okay. All right, next is Jorge and Truman Herrera. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but 1594 Broad Street. Is the applicant here and wishes to be heard on this matter? See, not here, the staff will now proceed with their recommendation.
All right, so This is an application to convert a legal, non-conforming mixed-use building into a three-family building. And this is located in northern Edgewood, in a C1 zone. So the current condition is that there are 2 residential units in this building and 1 commercial unit, which is proposed to be converted to a 3rd residential unit. And this is the site plan. And the relief is essentially for lot size requirements for 3-family dwellings, and it is short 1 parking space for the off-street parking requirement. So staff reviewed this application in consideration of compatibility with the general character of the surrounding neighborhood. So we analyzed the lot size of 3-family dwellings in this neighborhood and found that they are a similar size to the subject property. And about a quarter of the dwellings that were analyzed were on smaller lots than the proposed, than the application. And many of these 3 families that were analyzed are located on smaller residential streets, as opposed to the subject lot, which is located on Broad, a mixed-use transit corridor where development is expected to be denser. In addition, the parking requirement, which requires 2 spaces per unit, they are 1 spot short, so that would be 5 spaces for 3 units. The future land use map designates the property as neighborhood commercial services, and the zoning district allows multifamily development, which means that this application is consistent with the future land use map. And the following goals, policies, and action items in the comprehensive plan support the approval of this application. Goal H2, policy H3, policy H6, and policy H11. And with that, I'd like to give a positive recommendation on the application.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Is there any questions for Mr. Ray? Commissioner Lanfear?
Come less
Mm-hmm.
additional residential unit and no longer a dentist office.
Yeah.
How did you come to that conclusion?
I think that dentist office requires more cars to park there than 1 additional residential unit.
Would you agree that a residential unit would require more off-street parking?
I think it really depends.
But there is parking currently on Broad Street for patients of a dentist office or other commercial use.
On-street parking, is that what you're referring to?
On-street, yes.
Yes.
And on-street parking wouldn't be allowed for a additional residential unit. It would have to be off-street.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Ray? Mr. Ray, just a quick thing. I don't know if you put it in the slide, but could you just tell me what the density of this proposal is? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just keep that up. 31.73 is the proposed density, and the radius in 200 feet is 16.5. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Any other further questions for Mr. Ray? Okay, we will now go to public comment on 1594 Broad Street. Seeing none. Is there anyone online that'd like to make public comment on 1594 Broad Street?
There's a Q&A, but they need to raise their hand to speak.
Could Mr. Q&A please put your hand to speak if you want to speak? I'll give you about 30 seconds. I cannot read from here what the Q and A is.
It says no microphone.
All right, well, let me read it and then,
Proceed, Mr. Marcelo.
given that Broad Street has a bus every 10 minutes or so, I'm curious on why their parking requirement is so high. The person online says they have no microphone on their computer.
Could you ask the person, thank you, Mr. Person online, for your written comment. Could you state your name and address, like just type it, if you could, for a moment? I'll give you a minute. Could you read that, Mr. Marcelo?
Sean Sierra, PATEV, 260 Aqueduct Road or Street, I'm assuming Cranston.
Road.
Road.
Right, thank you, sir. All right, did you say, I'll let Ms. Valcourt have a moment to write down. And when you're done, let me know.
So I guess the legal answer to that is, for what it's worth, the parking requirements in the city really don't correspond to whatever current bus route is or is not going by the property. It's based upon the zone and the lot size and the use.
Okay. And I was gonna say, for multifamily, it's my understanding it's 2 units per unit, 2 parking spaces per unit for multifamilies, right, solicitor?
I thought it was.
Well, I may be wrong about that.
Yeah, I believe
Yeah,
you're
no,
correct.
it's,
I am correct, you think? Okay, thank you. Is there any further comment you have, sir? Did he have something further to say? Just hold on, sir.
Nicole, I was just wondering if the people at home could see that.
Okay. Does he have further comment? If so, could you just read it, Mr. Marcel? I apologize.
Thank you for the answer. My apologies for the mic problem.
Okay, thank you, sir. And we try to accommodate everyone. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties.
I see no other public comment online.
Questions for the staff on this? It's difficult to think and press a button at the same time for me today. I'm sorry. As I was saying, this proposal is indicating a density of 31.73 in an area which has a density of 16.5. And also on top of it, you have this parking issue. So I don't believe it's consistent. It exceeds the density of the existing surrounding neighborhood within 200 feet, and therefore I will not be supporting it. I would not support a positive recommendation. Thanks. All right, any motions or further comment? Commissioner Lanfear?
With respect to the parking, we never can tell if that amount of parking is going to be required or not. So we have to go with the standard that's set. And I will say in Northern Edgewood, parking, off-street parking is a real issue in that area. And as it gets more dense, off-street parking becomes even more of an issue. So I would disagree that it won't create any undue nuisances, because I think it does have the potential to do that if adequate off-street parking is not provided.
Thank you, Commissioner Lanfear. Now is the time to, any further comments? Otherwise, it's time to make a motion, negative or positive. Commissioner Lanfear.
I would move a negative recommendation to the zoning board for the following reasons. The lot size, existing lot size is 4,118 square feet, where 14,000 square feet is required. It would be increasing the nonconformity that currently exists. The proposal is not consistent with the future land use map. Currently, the neighborhood density is 10.4. The density of these parcels, if this were approved, would be 31.73. And the density within the 200-foot radius is 16.5. So the density of this proposal clearly exceeds both the 200-foot radius and the neighborhood radius. They do not meet sufficient off-street parking, and this proposal would not preserve and protect the density of the existing neighborhood or the neighborhood within 200 feet as required by the comprehensive plan.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Lampier for a negative recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Barberi. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of making a negative recommendation signify by saying aye. Aye. All those in favor, all those opposed to this negative recommendation signify. Okay, so we have Commissioner Carrero and Commissioner Mancini as the noes, the rest as yeses. What did I do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. Okay. Right, 5-2. Okay. So Commissioner Barberi? Sorry about that. Okay, negative recommendation passes. All right, that concludes zoning board recommendations. Thank you, Mr. Ray, for that. We will now move to mixed use centers and corridor project. Would staff would like to make a presentation at this time?
Absolutely. Thank you. Let me just share my screen. We'll jump in with this. Let's see. And present. Okay, so we've done a lot of work on the mixed use centers and corridors, and got a lot to cover. I don't see.
Beth, your screen has not been shared.
My screen has not been shared. No. Okay.
We can see you. We can't see your screen though.
Uh-oh. Share your screen. Share. Share. Oh, no. Hold on. There we go. It's just asking me which windows. So I'm just going to go briefly over the background of this project because we've been working on this over a long period of time. And I'm going to talk about the zone selection and the purpose of the mixed use centers and corridors project, and then talk about the zoning changes and how this project's going to move forward. Let's see. Let me advance my slides.
You clicked out of it.
I'm hating myself for this. Okay. Entire screen share.
It's back.
Okay. We are back. So this project has the benefit of a consulting team from Kittleson Associates that is funded through a competitive grant that we won through Rhode Island Housing. And so this is the project overview of where we are. We've done data collection and evaluation. We collected off with a site walk. We then proceeded to define the area that we're looking at in our study. We've held one public meeting, and here we are. We're at the yellow circle of the City Plan Commission today. We're about to pivot from collecting input into drafting the zoning amendments. And I know this commission will want to have a lot of input on the on the zoning amendments itself. But today I'm going to walk through some of the basic, all the basic concepts to get your input on that before we really put a pen to paper to start drafting. So there are a number of slides to go through the history of the project. I'm going to kind of try to move forward quickly to the areas where we need input. I think some of the important things that we learned through the site walk, we met with the Plan Commission members, RIPTA, several landowners. We learned that Rise Engineering is interested in expanded and very open to the mixed use concept. We learned that there's a lot of interest in protecting the surrounding single family neighborhoods and not having any of the mixed use changes sort of spill over into the larger neighborhoods. And we've taken all of these things into consideration. The selection of the zones was based on really looking at the existing and future potential of the land, the economic potential, the presence of people, 0 car households and persons under 16 or over 65. And we also looked at some barriers to come up with these zones. So I'm just going to quickly walk through. We have 3 zones that are part of this project. And one of the things that we're going to come back to in this project is that we are going to allow for some different thresholds and requirements in the different zones, because each one has a different character. All of them have existing transit. All of them have existing mix of uses. All of them have some development potential, but they have different scales of development. This Rolfe Square area, including Pontiac Avenue and extending on Park Avenue, is an established commercial core with a really good walkable Main Street character along the Rolfe Square area, and it really doesn't have any special environmental constraints. The Elmwood Avenue corridor has the greatest development potential. It has some larger parcels, not the parcels even, but aggregations of parcels under common ownership, and it's primarily existing industrial land use. So it has job density and it has the potential for advanced commercial bus service. And I put on the slide maximum building height on all of our zones, it's 35 feet citywide. That we are going to be making some proposals on that, but this existing is 35 feet all over our city. And the third area is Broad Street. It's a transit-rich corridor with community destinations and substantial residential population within walking distance already. So you don't need to bring in the residents. They're already there. There's also a fine grained historic development pattern with tree-lined streets and a need to balance nearby natural resources in this area. So the purposes of the mixed use centers and corridors project are several. They include housing, but they're much bigger than that. It's about connecting housing, commerce, and transit opportunities, providing standards for high quality development, adaptive reuse, and rehabilitation of properties. It is about increasing housing supply options, including multifamily and mixed use and live work, particularly if we do go ahead and allow residential in the Elmwood corridor. That would be a significant expansion in the potential for housing development in the city. And it's about creating a pedestrian-friendly environment to encourage walking, bicycling, and transit use. And it's about reflecting that community context and enhancing the livability of each district. So we're going to get into some design concepts. And at the workshops, we got feedback about a number of the policy options that can increase housing. The check boxes on the slide show you that Cranston's already using a number of these options. I'm kind of going to blast through these so we can get to the more nuanced slides at the end of the presentation. We got a lot of feedback on design features that contribute to area walkability. That could be reduced parking requirements. It could be increased maximum building heights. It could be smaller front yards on the commercial main streets. And it could be encouraging public spaces like pocket parks or the kind of park-like amenities on the sidewalk area that make the place feel more walkable and friendly, and tree canopy, and promoting active ground floor uses is something you'll see in some transit-oriented development districts where there have some requirements about the, not having expansive blank spaces facing the street, because that detracts from walkability, the distance between doors. So where we are with the mixed use project right now is we're thinking that we're proposing to develop this zoning for these areas as a overlay district. So that would allow us to keep the underlying zoning without changing it, but then having supplemental regulations. And that's illustrated here in this sort of layer diagram. Like your underlying district might allow housing, or it might allow commercial, and it might have a parking requirement, and we could overlay on that some more strict requirements for street trees, for the public space, landscaping and parking lots, and we might allow the uses to be mixed. So these overlay zones would apply to new constructions. They'd apply to substantial expansions of buildings by 30%, and that we could also make them apply to changes of use, because then one of the big advantages of a mixed use zone that allows a variety of uses is it allows the space to be used more dynamically over time. So we're proposing to allow mixed uses in these zones. We're proposing to encourage street level activity, allow housing options, and allow commercial uses by right. But I think one of the things that's, the goal is to provide a walkable mixed use area. We have discussed possibly requiring in Rolfe Square in particular to require active street front facades. And so that's a question, are there other areas in this mixed use in these corridors where we want to require an active storefront facade, where the residential or an apartment building couldn't be built facing the street? The other thing that we need to come back with is maybe fine tuning the list of uses that we think is appropriate for each of these areas. Do we want doggy daycares? Do we not want a doggy daycares? And I think there's some choices the commission will have to make to help fine tune those lists of uses. And the list can differ from zone to zone. We're talking about density bonuses as a way to get to the transit-oriented densities, but not just allowing that by right, but having a menu of public benefits that a developer could propose in order to gain a density bonus. So they could be proposing a pocket park, a public space, affordable housing. So we're going to have some work to do defining what that menu of options is and the level of bonuses that correspond to them. This has been very successful in other areas, and it's consistent with the idea that you're expanding the options for development rather than narrowing the options. As a starting point, one of the things we scaled, the feedback from Cranston caused our Kittleson partners to scale back, is the proposal for height limitations by district. We're proposing as a baseline to keep it at 35 feet in the Rolfe Square, Park Avenue, and Broad Street zones, but start at 4 stories in the Elmwood, Wellington Avenue corridor. And then with density bonuses, by making special, investments in improving, providing extra benefits for the city, they could maybe qualify for a density bonus that would be accompanied by greater height. But in any case, if something went above 4 stories, even on Elmwood Avenue, which is the only place we might allow that to happen, we would still look at asking the buildings to be stepped back after the 4th story, so as to not create too much of a sense of a wall against the street. So that's a proposal. Something else that's come out of the feedback that I think the commission's going to like, and we can talk about the details, is the intensity regulations that we're thinking of proposing in general for these corridors and centers are small. They'd be development right up against the sidewalk. They would be, minimal side setbacks. But we're also proposing in this last column on this slide, you can see what we're calling a transition zone. And this is the idea that if your development is abutting, you're on the edge of the zone and you're abutting a single family neighborhood, you'd have additional setback requirements. And we can talk about what those numbers should be, but the idea is that there's a transition zone that, something that's fully just facing Elmwood Avenue could have not have to think about not have the same requirements as something that's adjoining a single family home on a side street. Another new concept that we're bringing forward through this project is the concept of design guidelines. A big goal of this project is to improve the visual appeal of the corridor and create some unity, and so we are talking about design guidelines, but in our back and forth and from the feedback we've received, we're proposing that the design guidelines be advisory and not requirements. And that's something we can discuss. And we may have we could choose some of them that are required and not all of them. But the idea is that through our technical review committee, there would be an opportunity with the proposals in this district to review their adherence to the design guidelines and talk about ways they can improve the design to make it more walkable without actually requiring it. If they're not asking for any bonuses, we're not going to put any additional design requirements on them, is the current thinking that you can, I'll be interested to hear your way back in on. So we're talking about design guidelines that would require beautifying the parking lots and garages, that would require compatible design when you're in a historic building or adjacent to one, consistent design of the land use and buildings, and design features like lighting on the sidewalk that could help increase visibility and make the place feel safer for pedestrians. What Kittleson is come back to us for parking is a proposal that in these overlay zones, we only require 1.5 space per dwelling unit. All of these areas are served by transit and have higher than average presence of no car households or people under 16 or over 65. We're also proposing to allow shared parking. And this is something that comes back to what we know about successful main streets. Successful mixed use centers and main streets always have some shared parking. So that's the direction we want to go. Let's see here. There'd be design guidelines about the location of off-street parking. We want to be less visible from the street. We'd like to see it behind buildings. We'd like to see the shared parking. We'd like to see entrances off side streets where appropriate. And we're not proposing to require any bicycle parking, but we are proposing to have standards for bicycle parking should the developer choose to include it. So standardized driveway designs, prohibit fences or other barriers between adjacent lots to improve walkability for users of the district. I think I already mentioned place driveways on secondary streets and away from intersections. Provide pedestrian connections to entrances, and have space for shared driveway access and circulation. Again, it can become a little more compact by sharing things. We also are proposing to have additional requirements for landscaping. Street trees are something that was, every time we've gone out for public comment, there's been people have gone out of their way to tell us that these areas have shady streets and that people like street trees. And so we are looking at mandating, whether they're in the public right of way or not, probably on private land, but to require street trees that provide good shade in certain intervals along the districts, and being really consistent with that, because the feel of a developed Elmwood Avenue with tree canopy and one without tree canopy are two very different places in terms of how comfortable they'll be for pedestrians. Okay, I'm not gonna, moving to the end. So I've gone through a lot of ideas. We've spent a lot of time, on this project and getting feedback from the public. What I'm hoping to do today is get some feedback from the Plan Commission today, and then we will come back with starting to draft some ordinances based on your preferences at our future City Plan Commission in September. And just as a reminder, the timeline for this project runs through the end of this calendar year. So we want to get through through at least one iteration of draft zoning to finalize it in the next few months. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Director. Does anyone have any questions or comments right off the bat for the Director on this? Okay, I'll just start talking, Director. I'll start out with, there's a lot of good stuff in here. But this is the first time I'm looking at it on a slide, so I'm kind of like, when I have to, I'm thinking and reading and listening all at the same time. So I can't really commit until I have time to think about it. So I'll be asking for a copy of the presentation after the meeting.
Okay.
First, on the timeline, I think it's possible for us to come up with some kind of preliminary zoning ordinance of some type by the end of the year. But I do not see in 5 months, today is August, right? Yeah. So I don't see us being able to adopt any kind of major zoning ordinances by the end of the year by the city council.
Yeah.
I mean, between the statutes.
If also an election season.
I was going to allude to it more subtly and say that there could be other priorities for the council right now. And so I think we could maybe put something together by the end of the year and use that grant money for that purpose and make sure we use those resources. But I'm skeptical that we will be able to present something for the city council to vote on and approve by the end of the year. Between the timelines on the statutory timelines of like how much time you need to notice it, are be able to review other priorities the council will have by the end of the year. I just want to set your expectation and other people's expectations realistically here.
And that makes sense. And we'll have Kittleson through the end of the year to help us definitely write and possibly do some revisions, some iterations on it. But we're perfectly capable to make further adjustments even after the end of the grant cycle.
Right. And I think I'd like to use their resource, to be honest with you, when we're looking at this proposals, to understand, this proposal would be comparable to what in this state or what elsewhere. Do you see what I'm saying? So because we have to, first of all, I'm not a planner person. I just hang out here and do stuff on planning, but like some of these concepts, it's like, where would this exist? What would be the model, so that I have to understand it? And then I need to explain to elected officials in the end. I need to say, you'll see something like this, let's say in downtown Westerly. I'm just using that as a random example. So that's where the resources come in. Number one. Number two, you have 3 locations. And so let me start out with, I tend to be an incrementalist. And so I'd like to focus primarily on probably one location, maybe half of another. It actually makes it easier to get something done. It makes it more manageable. Broad Street, Pontiac, Ralph Square, and Elmwood Ave are 3 very different areas. in my mind. They're gonna have three different types of requirements. I'll speak to Ralph Square. Ralph Square, I'll say this publicly, and I don't mean no offense to the people who reside near there or who do business, but it seems to be an area that's a kind of like, it doesn't seem to have a purpose. It's not clear to me what it was. It was supposed to be a downtown in the 1930s and never really developed into a downtown because Garden City developed and all the suburban areas, shopping areas developed. Could that turn into an art district, for example? The zoning for an art district is very different from the zoning for an Elmwood area or a Broad Street. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's number one on that part. And then the other part is, to me, incremental means like, I'll phrase it this way, Director. I'd like to do portions of the area versus like these entire areas at this point, because if we make a mistake, and I'll just say it this way, if we make a mistake, we're affecting these entire areas versus like doing it on a small basis, like we're going to do part of the Elmwood area. We're going to do the part around Ralph Square. And that would also make it possibly more palatable and acceptable to elected officials and local community residents. Okay. I know that's not like you have a plan here of basically like large swaths of areas. I may prefer a more targeted incremental approach. But again, I've not made up my mind. It's just, I'm absorbing this as I'm talking to you and thinking about it. Third, I like the idea of what I call, there's a standard approach, or I understand there's the overlay district. How it works is that these things will be permitted in these areas by right. And then if you do certain things, you get a bonus. That to me is a core concept, which is if I'm going to allow for 4-story buildings, it's going to be like on Legion Bowl, which had a affordable housing component to it. Okay. I'm not going to make 4-story by right. If I'm going to reduce parking or do something, I mean, I'm just saying is that I prefer a model where this is the standard, and then we do this extra is because they're offering something addition. We can talk about the differences. Shared parking, I'll talk about parking now. 1.5 for multifamily is kind of what we've done before. Shared parking, if it's shared parking, Director, you've got to have the right commercial uses in that residential area. You cannot have late night commercial parking. I mean, like, I'll just use this as an example. A restaurant late at night is going to need parking, you know, and having residential sharing parking with a restaurant that does late at night, I think is a problem. If you tell me it's some kind of like daytime operation, like a dentist office that goes from 9 to 5, I can see that working, you see? So I just want to be practical with you. But those are my initial thoughts. And it's like, to me, the issue is the timeline, more concentrated parts versus the entire sweeping areas. I'm more focused on Elmwood, maybe part of Ralph Square. And there's a few other things I said, but I like the density. I like the, what I call the incentivized type on that. So those are my initial thoughts on it. And I just want to be straight about it because trying to do all this by the end of December for all the areas that you highlighted, I think is a very tall task. But I think we can do some of it. We can probably come together for something to propose by the end of December to the council, number one, but I think it'd be on a smaller scale. That's my initial thought, but my colleagues could disagree with me. The staff could tell me something I'm missing here, but that's my take. Go ahead, Director. You have something to respond to me?
I do want to add though, the Rolfe Square area and Park Avenue and Broad Street are largely built out. So the sort of Main Street walkable proposals that we're putting forward would not be a sweeping change of the area at all. It would just be putting some standards in place to go towards that walkable mixed use center, but you're not going to see large amounts of housing development. And in fact, if you remember in our discussion in the housing element, we've included no net new units estimated for those areas because they are largely built out. We're just going to create what we're proposing is we create design standards and more flexibility for things to be different uses or a combination of uses. But yeah, Elmwood Avenue would be a pretty big change. And
All right. And like, I know you said something about, what's it called? Like, some kind of front facade, storefront facade, active storefront facade. I'll just ask you this right now. What does that mean? What does an active storefront facade mean?
so in successful Main Street areas, there's certain distance. You need to have something interesting every, 25 feet. So you want to see windows with things to look in them. You want to have doorways. So you don't want to allow someone to build an apartment building that's just going to be one door for 100 feet, nothing else, right? So
Yeah,
that's
big,
active
like it looks like a
storefront.
wall with windows. Yeah.
Yeah, so in like a Rolf Square, you want to maybe be more permissive at allowing housing above
Right.
commercial uses, but you wouldn't want someone to knock down 3 commercial buildings and just build an apartment building on Rolf Square. Whereas
Right.
I can imagine on Elmwood Avenue, someone building a substantial apartment building.
Right. Okay. I understand a little bit better. And that's comes back to the nuances I'm talking about. Like, these are 3 very different areas in my mind. And one thing I think that will help the commissioners, it'll help me anyway, is you did a PowerPoint presentation. It's like, not to use the phrase, like this old cliche, devil in the details, but I'm gonna have to sit down and talk to you, not here, but like going through, like, what does this mean and the type of language you'd be using and what example are we aiming for? You see, like, this would be like, you want to imagine what this will look like? This will look like I told you earlier, this in this community. You see, and the consultant should be able to tell you what
Absolutely. And
examples, you know what I'm saying?
And if you'd like, the ordinance itself could include examples.
Yeah, well, examples couldn't, I don't know if the solicitor would like to have examples in an ordinance. I think you prefer to have clear language about what this is meaning. It's like, we want you to do uses like they do in downtown Westerly. It's got,
If you put an example, that means you didn't write it correctly.
you see, I was gonna say the solicitor is gonna do that, but examples are good for communicating to the public, communicating to our elected officials, and communicating even to people like ourselves, commissioners who obviously know about planning, have an interest in planning, but just don't understand all the nuances that the consultant and you do and the staff. So that's just my take, but my colleagues have something else they'd like to add at this point about this, because I'll sit down with you, Commissioner, Commissioner, Director, and talk about this. My colleagues can do as well. Commissioner Lampier?
I would just like to say, I know that I went on that initial walk over Elmwood Avenue with you and Kittleson and everyone, and heard about what they were contemplating. And what I saw was very exciting. And I think they've done a great job with you and the staff to come up with, in a general sense, what looks like a really good idea for, I will say, in particular, Elmwood Avenue. And I would just join in saying that I think if you start, first of all, with a more manageable geographic area instead of all of them, because they are all different, you will get a measure of success that will then drive interest and buy-in for other areas. I would prefer, just my own sense, Elmwood Avenue, because I think it's an opportunity for some of us who all care about Cranston to actually have some common ground. We talk about housing. Elmwood Avenue is an ideal location because of the transit-oriented potential that's there. It also, I think, there's less conflict there between residential areas and commercial areas that you might be considering in some of those other places. And it would be really nice for housing advocates, those of us who are on the commission who may be viewed as not being as enthusiastic about housing, although I don't think that's true, to work together and to be able to work with you and all work together to come up with changes to Elmwood Avenue and those areas that serve the community well. So I'm excited about that. I also agree with the president that it's important for you and the staff to educate us on the commission about all of these things that you're proposing, so that we can in turn understand what you're doing. A lot of times it's not reinventing the wheel, whether it's an ordinance or a statute or something else. You can always go to the well and look at what another community has done and show us that, so that we can, it sort of jumps off the page and becomes real for us, so that we understand what you're trying to propose and get us to recommend to the council. So thank you for that work, and I'm excited about what we hopefully will be able to do in the next few months to get it going.
Want to just add, piggyback on something that my fellow colleague said, was about these different areas, and Elmwood being an area where I think, you know, everyone has different opinions and strategies and tactics, but like Elmwood Avenue is, to me, the low-hanging fruit for purposes of housing production in our community. And if our goal is to try to have more housing production, Elmwood Ave could be an area. It's, you know, of course, we have to balance that with making sure we still preserve its industrial use, its potential. But like I've said to people before, it's an old industrial use. It's basically a reflection of our industrial age, when all the industrial centers were located next to railroads and rivers versus next to highways. The other thing I'll say on Ralph Square, I see that as more of, I'll call it a revitalization concept. Okay. And I don't like using, I call like canned terms. Okay. But Ralph Square, it's like I said, it was supposed to be when in the 1930s, it was going to be like our downtown. And it really, by the 1950s, it was no longer clearly a downtown at all. You have the Park Cinema there, you have, you know, small stores. And I like to look at that as an economic development revitalization thing versus just housing production. And so those two tasks alone, Director, is going to take a lot of work potentially, and a lot of communication and discussion with elected officials, local people, and even the people, the stakeholders in Ralph Square.
Yeah, so as a little bit of background, this last year we've been participating in the Main Street Learning Cohort. 2 areas stepped up to participate, Broad Street and Ralph Square. We really haven't had as much participation in the workshops from Broad Street, but the Ralph Square has been pulling together and are very interested in revitalization around the Arts District. We did a presentation, Brianna did a presentation from that group.
Yeah,
some of the ideas for, taking ideas from Main Street America's 4-point program for main streets and applying them here in Cranston. So that has informed our work. And I really think what you said is really important, that we not conflate this mixed use centers and corridors project with just a housing plan. This is about Main Street vitality and walkable mixed use centers. Not housing is one part of that, but it's not just about housing.
Right. So that, like I said, with the Ralph Square thing, it's going to be something different. But I think, like I said, I think I'll sit down with you. I invite my colleagues to sit down with you and the staff about it. And if the consultants, you know what I mean? If the consultants can meet with us, and we can set up times for that. But like on Ralph Square, we're going to need the buy-in of that community. And to make it clear, this is about a revitalization, and Elmwood's more about housing possibilities, is how I see it. And I think that's another one, Ralph Square, like I said, low-hanging fruit. I think most people would agree that Ralph Square should be revitalized if we can. It can be, more can be done there. Like I
Mm.
said, the devil's in the details, and that's where I need the consultants and you to basically say, what are we talking about here? What are we aiming for?
Right. And it will be more incremental in a place that's largely developed like Earl Square.
Right. Anything else from my colleagues they want to mention to director? Again, even if you have nothing to say now, director, please send out your PowerPoint to everybody. After the meeting, they can look at it and you can talk to the director anytime. We obviously, have to be careful about open meetings for ourselves talking to each other, but we certainly can talk to you. And we can start looking at towards the end of the year, coming up with something. Okay, I just don't want to, the one thing I want to emphasize again, the first comment, I don't want to rush something and then we're rushing to do an artificial deadline and then it creates a mess and then it poisoned the well. Let's just do it right. Takes a little bit more time. And I just don't see the council and our elected officials having the bandwidth to handle this major, could be construed as a major change for some people at the end of 2026. So that's my view of it. Okay. Anything else? All right. Before I do that, is there anyone here who'd like to make public comment on this topic? Mr. Lima, is there anyone here who'd like to make public comment on this topic?
There is no public comment online.
Okay, thank you. Anything else before we close out and move to the next item on our agenda? Director, you have anything else you'd like to add before we move on? Okay, thank you, Director. Next is the 2026 Comprehensive Plan Housing Element. So let me bring up everyone up to speed about what this is. We have a city-approved comprehensive plan. We do not have one approved by the state. Last year, you may recall in the summer, we talked about making an amendment to our comprehensive plan in order to obtain state approval, in particular the housing element. Why? Because the state housing had set a goal of 1,367 units by 2030 for Cranston. Second, there have been some changes in state law regarding affordable housing comprehensive permits that I think it would be in our best interest and more prudent to try to get approval from the state for our affordable housing plan in our comprehensive plan. We had public comment about this in the summer. We had I know that staffs had forums in other places about that touches upon housing a little bit, I believe. And we, of course, in May, the staff had got some feedback from all of us and developed a plan. And in May, those of us at the Cranston Public Library provided some feedback and some suggested changes. I then followed up with some further changes with the staff. And what you see before you is the draft plan. So let me explain, before I talk about the plan, let me explain what this is about. This is, if we vote for this draft, it doesn't mean it goes to the city council for approval. It goes to statewide planning for their review and input to get back to us. It's sort of like, here's our draft, this is what we're thinking. And we get input. And the director, I think, says it could go to other agencies, but the main one to me is statewide planning. The reason I think it's important to make this step is to get the ball rolling, to get something adopted eventually by the city of Cranston next year on this. The plan itself. The plan itself, I will not go through it in total detail, but if you will see, because of the change in population that's consistent with statewide planning's, what it believes will be the population in the state and in Cranston in 20 years, the housing production numbers go much lower than they were. For example, in 2025, there is a projected housing need of 1,579. In 2045, it's 1,286. And we have a production potential, housing production potential of 2,900. So it's far and above, actually, in some ways, some of these goals, in my opinion, what the stats are showing. And we have a lot of options here. Just because it's listed here, I just want to emphasize, doesn't mean we will have to do that. But this is a pathway to get these goals. And of course, a part of this is trying to increase the number to accommodate the state goal of more affordable housing / government subsidized low and moderate income housing units. And so you see on pages 15 to 16, those production. And we've went back and forth with the staff over time about these for over a year. And I think, as you see here, we are increasing the possibility of more housing without doing harm, I think, to our existing neighborhoods or negatively impacting our existing neighborhoods. Even the changes here, like on small lot size, oversized lot size, 150 in 20 years, as I understand from talking to the director, that is simply conforming with state law. That's what they're projecting. Even like, I understand the mixed use corridor is 1,200 units. As the director said earlier, that is basically Elmwood. It's 90 acres over there. And so even if you did 15 units an acre, it would be like 1,200 easily. I think it would be 1,200. But this is what the staff has put together over time with input from us. And so I'm hoping that we can adopt this. It's non-binding in the sense of it doesn't become law. It doesn't become what we have to follow. We're just sending it on to the statewide planning to hear their input, and then we can decide based on their input where we want to go from next. And so it's been a year-long process. So that's what it is. But is it perfect? Look, I'll tell you this right now. There are things here that I'm not a big fan of, but this is a comprehensive plan. It reflects a community. So it's always going to be compromises. There's always going to be things in there that I don't like. There's going to be things in there that other people don't like. So that's what I just wanted to say. But if there's any questions about it, for the staff, about something or comments, we can have that now, and then I'll take public comment. So I'll open it up to my colleagues if they have anything they want to say or add at this point. What's that? Okay. All right. If there's, Director, do you have anything you want to say at this point? Add to what I said?
Just want to thank everybody who's given input into this process.
Yeah, thank you, Director. This has been I know that the director won't say this publicly, but she'll probably say it privately, how difficult this is in creating a plan like this and getting everyone's input and trying to balance it. And it's just a difficult situation. So I appreciate the director's patience in this process, and I'll apologize to people who have been annoyed by me during this process. But I feel an obligation to create a plan that I believe will provide opportunity for more housing without, emphasize, without negatively impacting our existing neighborhoods. So I'd like to do first public comment. See if no one has any say. Does anyone here like to make public comment on this draft? Not here. Mr. Lima, is there anyone you're playing with that thing. Mr. Lima, is there somebody online that wants to make public comment on this draft?
Just checking it, but I don't see any public comment or anything new at this time.
I'm going to give it like 5 seconds in case somebody wants to write something or a hand goes up. Nothing, Mr. Lima?
There is no public comment online.
Thank you. So at this point, if there's any further questions or comment, I'd like to have I'll go ahead, Commissioner Lanfear.
I do have one question on page 22, schedule of ordinances. there's, at the very bottom, neighborhood-based zoning designations.
Mm-hmm.
The ordinance anticipated to be implemented is right-size the zoning districts to legalize by right construction of housing that is of the same type
22.
and scale as is predominant in the local neighborhood context.
Okay.
I have questions about that because same type and scale is a pretty broad term,
Right.
as well as predominant, which could mean 1% or
Could be
more,
anything.
and local neighborhood context. We went back and forth a little bit tonight about neighborhood,
There it is.
page 22, yes, at the
Yeah.
bottom. So I do have some concerns about that, especially when we talk about by right.
Yeah, I will tell you, Commissioner, I thought I took this out, this phrase by right. In an edit to the director. Director, I thought I took out, when it came to neighborhoods, was right size to legalize construct. I mean, I thought we took out by right. I remember taking out by right. I may be wrong.
No, we probably took it out of the narrative and not this chart.
Okay,
I'll make that change.
okay, Commissioner, if we take out the phrase by right, that would, right size zoning districts, construction, this could be, it's not by right. Okay? Okay, all right. So with that, we'll just, with that change,
Oops, I'm sorry. I say that not because, I say it because all of our wards and neighborhoods are different.
Right.
We have diversity of neighborhoods. And there may be times when that's perfectly appropriate and protective of neighborhoods. And there may be times when it isn't. If it's not by right, it gives us the opportunity to look at those changes and voice our opinion as to when it is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
that's correct. Thank you, Ms. Lam. Thank you for catching that. I went through this pretty quickly this morning to make sure most of my changes were in there, and I did not look at the end. I apologize. So thank you for catching that. More importantly, if there's something here, again, this is a draft. It doesn't bind us. But it is something so that we can get input back from Statewide Planning so we can move this process. All right. Anything else? If not, I'd like to have a motion to submit this chapter to statewide planning and other relevant aid to direct the planning department to submit this chapter to statewide planning and other relevant agencies for review with the revision, the elimination of the phrase by right. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Lampier is a second, seconded by Commissioner Exter. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Thank you very much. And I really do appreciate my colleagues' patience with that very long process and your confidence and trust in following this, in doing this. All right, Planning Director, do you have a report you'd like to share with us? It's about 9:10.
I'm all set for tonight. Thank you.
Okay, if anyone has any questions, feel free to, okay. Anyone has any questions for the Planning Director? Obviously, she's always available. I know it's a summer night in August, and you guys are wondering how long was I going to talk? So it's going to end now. Motion to adjourn would be in order. Anyone want to make it? It's moved by Commissioner Lampier, seconded by Commissioner Barberi. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Thank you very much. See you next month.